Hey everyone, Christina here from Scopio, CEO, and I'm going live today with Val Vesa from London, who is a hobbyist photographer and social media consultant. He'll be here to share some tips and tricks on growing your business and your ideas and what's the latest that he's been thinking about.
Hey
Hey
there,
Val, how are you?
pretty good. Happy to be here. So my name is Val. Actually, the legal name is Valentin, but nobody says that anymore. I
Nothing.
was born. I was born in a village called Solymas. That's really in Transylvania, Romania, and I'm now based in London, working for Cloudflare as a community manager. And my biggest hobby, actually, I think the only hobby I have except IT is photography. And I just travel back and forth from Cluj, Transylvania, where my family is, to London and back and so forth. So
So tell us about a little bit about how uh, you started this hobby or what interests you in it.
back in the day, in communist time, I don't know how many of you live in a former communist country, but for us, having a camera, having or even taking photos was very prohibitive because you would have to be approved by the party to be an official photographer of some sort, or if you attended an event, you would just there to enjoy and watch without taking photos unless you had special license, special approval. And then right after communism fell in 1990, sorry,
Mhm.
there were all these German, Italian, English people coming into the country, trying to help, trying to bring food, supplies, and all that. And one of this group was having with them a photographer, and he gave me a Mamiya, a Japanese camera. Everything was handheld. Maybe for the fans out there who know Mamiya, very good camera. And he said, I want to pay you because I was translating for them. So they spoke German and I was translating for the local authorities. And I was about 15, 14, something.
Wow.
And he said, well, this is the gift. He said, how can I pay you for your translating services? And I said, I don't want any money. It's fine. I'm just doing because I want to help my country and so on. And he said, look, I'm not going to take this camera back to Germany with me. It's yours. So I
Oh,
was like, okay, now I have to learn. So, trying to look up for user guides and all that was pretty fun. So everything was on film. And there was this photographer in the same city with us. He was doing everything, weddings, baptisms, all that, funerals, everything. And I said, can I learn? Can I just go with you, see how you do, see how you frame stuff, why you're taking a specific shot and not the other one, and so on. And I have no formal photography, education, but everything was trial and error, and essentially just got to my soul, and I just loved it. So when I need a moment to just get out of my daily routine, we live maybe 5 minutes walk from the forests in Transylvania. I just walk into the forest, take my camera with me, and you can lose me for hours.
so you like to be by yourself? Is it something relaxing for you?
It's very relaxing. I have two particular types of photography that I enjoy taking. It's street photography, one of them. I've been a founding member in Romania of the 24-hour project. Maybe you've heard of it. So it's 24 hours every year, once a year, where you just take photos, one photo each hour, and you post it to Instagram. And you do that for 24 hours straight, no sleeping, no, nothing, just boom, boom, boom. But
You can
that's
sleep
street
in
photography.
between the hours and wake up, right?
Yes. Well, you still can sleep like in between shots or something,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not really a lot. And the second one is I like to take photos of people in like in the park, or like two ladies talking on a bench or something that is very in the moment. And then
Mhm.
I approach them and I say, look, this is the shot I just took of you. May I use it? Or would you like to use it? Or and everybody's like, oh my God, it's so great. Because if they don't know you're taking the photo, but then you still approach them and say, look, I took this photo. I'm not going to be, a creep and just run away with the photos.
Yeah.
Uh, they really appreciate it. And I've never in my, I don't know, almost 20 years of taking photos, I've never had somebody say, oh, don't take my photo, stop it. What are you doing? Because it's just the way you approach people. You can see from the distance if somebody's going to be, interested or not interested in being, a subject on your photography.
So you have a lot of different things that you shoot. What was like your favorite thing that you've ever done?
My favorite photo ever, even to this day, is a photo I took in Sri Lanka. I was on a beach on Indian Ocean, and there was this kid, maybe 9, 10, I don't think more, was just playing in the waves. It was almost sunset. It's a very powerful, sunset scene. There's nothing in there. It's almost dark, and then just the sun almost falling into the ocean. And he was just playing into the waves, like actually jumping around, splashing the water. And then at one moment, he turns away and he sees the sun setting, like that beautiful scenery that I was observing from across the beach.
Hmm.
And he goes with, I have no idea what local language they speak or how, I had no idea, but the sound he made was wow. It's just a wow, like everybody does in the waves. And he just turned around and started splashing water again. And then I heard his dad, some, blah, 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 something. And then like I assumed that the father was sort of searching for him, and now he found him. He's like, okay, let's go home. Enough of playing. And I got that shot. And then I went and I stopped the dad and I said, look, this is the photo I took of your son enjoying the sunset without actually knowing what's behind him. And then when he noticed the sun, that moment when he says, wow, that's when I took the shot. I had a 7200 from Sony with me, and it's just, that's the one photo. It's in my heart forever. And I sent it to them as a huge, photo printed,
Really?
and they loved it. I don't know how it got to him, but he wrote back saying, "Thank you so much, I got it." And they keep it in the house, and it was really powerful. And it's somewhere on my Instagram feed. I can send you the link if you want to share it later. But the most beautiful story in any of my photography so far.
Wow, that's super powerful. I love like the children photography is always so different because there's such a wonder and an innocence to it that if you can capture that, it's just like so amazing.
And it's very good to be friends or friendly, like especially because it's, we live in a very sensitive time, and everything that is happening for a photographer to capture moments that are not agreed by the subjects is really creepy and really bad, and I never recommend anyone doing it. So if that parent, for example, would say something like, "Why are you taking photos of my son without approval or something?" I would just delete it in front of him and say, "Sorry, I really apologize." But I actually explained what I saw. It was just one frame. I didn't
Yeah.
have time to do 2 or 3 or more.
How do you develop that character? I know a lot of people are shy, especially like more artist types.
Uh, I think it takes not necessarily something in your DNA, but it takes a lot of exercise. So asking somebody, can I take your photo is not enough. You should have on you some sort of either your phone with some photos that you took already of similar characters or similar setups. Like if you're on a city, on a street somewhere, and you try to take a lot of portraits, for example, you can show them. These are my latest 5 portraits that I took. If you like them, can I take one because I'm doing a series or I'm doing a gallery or whatever. But don't lie, but have a very good story, basically. So don't say something that is stupid or is awkward or is inappropriate. Like for the 24-hour projects, for example, last year we
Who
had a
started
topic
that project?
that started in Los Angeles about, I think, 8 years ago by some local photographer. And just last year we had 17,000 photographers participating in
Wow. Have
62 countries.
have you been able to meet any of them in person?
No, just over phone. I mean, I meet the ones that come to our city, or if I go somewhere else, like in London, for example, I participated once already.
Uh-huh.
But it's not something to meet physically, but everybody actually watches the hashtag. So you see, oh, a new photo. Where from? Iran. Oh, this one is from Australia. Oh, this was in for Canada. This one
Wow.
is Germany. So it's just really amazing. And last year, the theme of the project was women, so empowering women. And then, of course, you had to go out there and find women on the street and talk to them and ask them to allow you to take their photo. So what do you do at 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the middle of the city? Where do you find women that actually are, allow you to take their
Go
photo?
to your,
So I remember this, it was like a discotheque, like a place where people dance in the night.
oh, that's a good
And
idea.
I went there, and the moment I saw a woman or a girl, coming out with what it looked like her boyfriend, I said to the guy, I said, you have a beautiful girlfriend, and I'm taking this photo. Can I take photo of her, and then I can take a
Why wouldn't
portrait
you
of
ask
both?
her
Because
instead of her
it's
boyfriend?
very it's a different world here, and traditionally here you can't talk directly to a woman unless you have approval from the husband first or boyfriend.
Yeah.
So what I would do is to pay respect to the local tradition. I ask him if I'm
Right.
okay to address her, because if he says sure, then I can ask her, can I take your photo? But not before that. I
Yeah.
think it depends on what country and where you go.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's also a skill you have to develop, because you never know in which country what local tradition
Yeah.
can mean.
Yeah, I mean that sounds exciting, like the projects like that for you. And it's
Yeah,
super interesting. Like I've never heard a story. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, but the ones about you starting or the way you started, that somebody really like. I feel like that's in a book, where somebody gives you a camera and it's like, here you go, good luck in your life.
I still have that Mamiya camera. I think I took, I don't know, thousands of photos with it. And at one point the mirror, it has like a very thin sort of a foamy support to it, like on the back where it goes up and down, and then that material then disintegrated. I mean, after so many years. So what
Yeah.
I did was I took I don't know, like the packaging where when you get like the batteries, they have that specific sort of a plastic, very thin packaging, and I cut it out with a razor, and I glued it in there just to make sure that I have enough support for the mirror, and then I cut it out with my scissors, and it's just like microscopical surgical processes, because I had no money to buy another camera, so I had to make sure that that one worked, so I
Wow.
can go back to baptisms and weddings. And
Yeah.
that's how I paid for our wedding when we got married 17 years ago. Everything that was, dress, food, location, music, everything was paid out of that camera, and it's still
Really?
working.
So you started a business with it at some point. So you got your camera at like what, 15, 16? And then what, you were at 18 asking people if you can go shoot their weddings and their baptisms?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
how would you do that?
basic.
Like walk me through your 18-year-old self.
Well, 18 years old. So I was in high school, last year of high school, 12th grade, and we were getting ready to graduate, right? So I go to the principal and I say, do we have a photographer to take photos of when we graduate? And he's like, no, we don't have budget for that. I'm like, I can do it for free. But if you like it, you'll pay me to come back every year for 5 years, to
Wow.
get
What a
every
deal.
other.
You locked them in
And
for a 5-year contract. That's pretty
he
smart.
said, he said absolutely, because he was sure that he's not going to like it, because he'd never seen any of my photos. Like, you don't, back then it was no digital photography, so you had to actually come up with like your booklet or printed photos.
Would you print them in
So
a book and everything? You made your own.
yeah, sure. Well, not my own, but I have to go to a shop and do it. But everything I was doing was just taking photos. But imagine high school. Nobody really cared. Like back then, there was no selfie. There was no filled lips and all those faces. Nobody really cared. As long as you had one big
Filled lip.
group with everybody in it, that was fine.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I was encouraging, especially all these classmates of mine who were in a way test subjects. I said, would you like me to take a portrait of you? And they're like, what do I use it for? I'm 18. Like, what do I need a portrait for? Imagine, this is
Wow.
20 something years ago, and people were asking, what do I need a portrait for? And I said, well, maybe you want to apply for a job so you can save it and use it when you actually can. You would have to staple it on a
Yeah.
CV and then submit it somewhere for a job. And
A
I
lot
had
of countries
four.
will do that, by the way.
I had four colleagues who wrote back to me, or one of them called me and said, I got a job because of your photo. And I was like, see, see, it worked.
That's amazing. So you did that, and then when did you start working in technology?
So I always had a passion for the internet and web hosting and domain registrations and all that. So I was already running my
Why do you
own.
like the internet?
I always liked the internet because it was such a rare commodity. So when I was on my ninth grade, which is 15, 16, something, 16 years old, that's when internet got to Romania, and that's when I visited the first internet cafe. So imagine me going in front of a computer because I had a cassette tape of this singer from the United States of America who I really loved his music. His name is Carmen. And I wanted, on the back of the cassette tape, it had a www.carmen.org. And I was like, what is that? Like, I speak English, but I've never heard this word, www. Like, what does it stand for?
Wow.
So my physics teacher said, this is an internet address. I was like, internet address? What is internet address? So he's like, there's this internet cafe that opened up 47 kilometers away from my city. So I had to actually take a bike and go there.
Mm.
And I went inside, and there was a girl, and there was 18 stations, and there was nobody there because nobody really knew what internet was.
And you had to
And they
pay
just,
for it too, the internet.
I had to pay for it, yes. And I
Yeah.
said, can I sit down and use the internet? And even the fact that I said the internet, she was like, oh my God, first time here? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So she said, come over, sit down. You get a free half an hour. Just, whatever, do whatever you need. So I sat in front of the computer for, I don't know, 3 minutes watching. If you remember, the Windows 98 was just swirling around logo, like a GIF.
Yeah.
And I was just watching. And then she came over and she said, why don't you use the internet? I'm like, I'm waiting for it to start. So what she did was she moved the mouse a bit and boom. So, that was the level 20 years ago.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, and then
Did you ever
when
go to the website? Did you see the art?
yeah,
What was the artist page? What do they have up there?
Just the website saying if you want to, book to come to his shows or go to a live concert and buy his cassette tapes. I mean, there were no CDs back then.
But you couldn't buy it online. It was just probably
No.
the schedule. The tour schedule.
You have to wire money to a bank account that they had up there, and then you would get. But there was no way for us from Romania to wire money internationally without being an adult, agreement.
Yeah.
It's just So I was like, never mind. I just wrote him a letter, an actual letter, and I said, I've been to the internet and I saw your website. I can't afford your music, but I love you. God bless, whatever. And then he sent back 4 cassette tapes of him for free.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were just the music, so I could translate the lyrics, and we were singing the songs in our church in Romanian based on the music he sent. And I had approval to use it as a trademark, as a copyrighted material. So, because he was just impressed by the fact that nobody actually ever wrote to him from Romania, and not in a way of, that was very fun for him. I'm just imagining when they got the letter and somebody, read it out, and they just started laughing in the office. It's like, who's this guy? Like, where are these?
Yeah. I heard there's artists now that are just Venmoing their fans money that are in trouble, like from COVID. That's like the funnest thing probably about being a musician.
It could be something very interesting, and it could be something that touches your fan base in a way that, it's also helpful but fun in the same way.
Yeah. What is this social media consulting that you do now?
So right now I'm working for Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a security company, works out of started in the US, but now it's pretty much all over the world.
Yeah.
But I do the community management side, but I also consult and, advise people on anything related to social media. But my particular focus right now is...
Yeah, what is community management for those?
Community management means engaging all the company fans and followers on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, so on. Generating content for them, managing the blog, managing the relationship with bloggers, whoever writes on the blog. And we have 40 something active bloggers all the time. So it's a lot to process. But right now I'm focusing on
what do they write about?
Technology, DDoS protection, security issues, how to make your website faster, how to protect your business, how to work from home. I mean, now it's COVID, everybody works remote. And we have specific products that actually help businesses allow their employees to work from home safely and securely. But right now, I really focus on educating teenagers because I have 2 teenagers, kids of my own, 13 and 15. So I try to, if you have seen the social documentary on Netflix, that's something that is really big right now. And it's something that I have a lot of parents coming to me and teachers and asking me, can you teach us? Can you show us? And how much of this is true? Like, are they really tracking us? And Of course, you can go crazy and say, yes, they're trucking and we're all slaves, and because we're not. I mean, you can still say no. Nobody actually forces the phone down your throat saying you have to use it for, 22 out of 24 hours. But it's a process, and it's a huge help for me, the fact that my wife, being a psychologist, can help sort of you know, like allows me to have the specific wording when I speak to teenagers, especially because she's a mom. Like moms are great, and moms know so much, and we have no idea, fathers, of how to actually speak sometimes or what to say to kids.
Yeah.
Uh, that's why I always like to say, listen to your wives. Like if you have a wife, listen to her. Or if you have a mom, or like the woman in your life that
We
knows.
should cut this up and distribute it.
Okay, no worries, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been doing projects like that, or how do you have like, is that in person,
So
or how do you do it?
so
Have you
it's
tried to make a
usually
video,
I
like
go
a
and
YouTube video about it, explaining? Anything like
I
that?
I hate seeing myself on videos. Like I don't know. My voice is really
That's just
funny,
awful.
and it's just something that I'm not really used to. But I know people usually take videos of me when I go and speak physically, like on schools or churches or youth groups or camps and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Usually get the leaders calling me and say, "Can you talk about social media? Can you talk about how to secure your social profiles? Can you talk about all this nonsense of phone dependency and social media dependency?" And there's a lot of parents who have no idea what their life could be like if they were actually friends with their children, meaning
yeah,
actual friends. Because what they do is they sort of creep their kids on social media, trying to see what they post about, who they talk to, instead
yeah,
of just asking them, so tell me, how many friends you have, or who's your best friend, how many friends you have online, who do you talk to. I hear stories of people and parents just sort of going crazy because their daughter or their son was approached by a pedophile, or
wow,
of course, very very slight, very light, very non-intrusive initially, and then it starts getting bigger and bigger, and then they have screenshots and photos of their kids, and then they threaten to
wow.
show that to all their friends and so on. So photography,
Does
as
that really
anything in
happen?
all the time, photography, as anything else in technology, can be used for good or bad.
Yeah,
It's not the tool, it's what you do with it. I always say that. But if you love social media, you
mm,
can't do that unless you love people as well. So if you do photography, if you do internet content, if you speak to people, if you listen to people, even better if you listen to people, you need to love them, because that's something that is genuine. That's something that people feel immediately. You can't fake a good listener. You just can't. You can't fake a good speaker. You can speak for ages and nobody will listen anyways. But you cannot fake a good listener. There's no way.
yeah. No, I mean, with everything else, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, the internet, it's like so bad, but obviously it's just bringing out what we are. So the more positive voices that are out there, the more content that's uplifting, that will
Everything we
that
do
will,
online has offline consequences. I always tell kids this. Everything we do online has offline consequences. And also, because we run a charity for almost 13 years, I always tell people this. A like on Facebook does not equal a dollar donated or a shoebox donated to a child. Does not. It helps. It helps bring your message to some other people, maybe when you share and so on. But if you like on social media and your heart, in a way, is okay, I'm satisfied, I did something, you
yeah,
did nothing. That child will still go to bed starving
yeah.
because your like does nothing.
But it's great
When
because
you
now you have so many different opportunities to help. Like everyone's going to help, things that they care about, they can choose that. So that's good. You can,
Now
like
we have options. We have
exactly,
options
you
to
have options.
package the way we do good. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. And you can do it in so many different things. Content, of course, has its like special ways in which that we can help too.
And we can help with photography because that's something I really love. We can help people uh, have their stories told or seen or listened, or or,
But
make it
tell me
visible.
about your story. Tell me about how you can make storytelling better, because I see a lot of photographers or artists, they take great photos, but they're not able to share their stories. What advice do you have to like actually make the story stronger or let people hear that story?
So what I do always, I don't know if I have a good advice or bad advice, but what I do personally
Yeah.
is I never think of the rule of, whatever framing, whatever lighting. I mean, look at me. I'm in a bad light right now. I don't care. But what's the most important thing is think before you press that trigger on on the shutter of the camera. What do you want to send away from that shot? What do you want people to understand beyond what they see? For me, for example, I try to always, when I post something on Instagram, my photos always have long, detailed captions because people need to understand. They might not, they might understand like in the first second when they see a photo, they will say, oh, that's a nice sunset. But then they scroll and they see the story and they hear about that boy who was playing for 10 minutes in the waves and then he turned around. Oh my God, such a great sunset. And boom, then he turns around, goes back playing, and then his dad comes and they found, I mean, all that story. You never see that if you just double tap like and you move forward. But again, telling great stories is is a combination of you telling it and somebody listening or understanding. Because if you just tell a great story and there's nobody there to listen and understand, it's just going to be a very good story that nobody knows about. It's just that story when somebody says, if a tree falls in the forest without nobody seeing it, did it actually fall? Is it
But
really
if it just,
happening?
I mean, do you just put it on Instagram or do you put it other places, the stories?
I have a lot of places where I put it. So I put it on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I have an account on 500px, and now on Scope.io, and so many other places where I post my photos. But there's many places where they just want the actual photo and they care about what's in the frame. But I'm more keen to share and participate in the forums or on Facebook on groups where people actually ask, what's the context? There's a very interesting group on Facebook that I encourage your listeners to participate if they want.
Yeah.
What do you see from your window? It started during the pandemic and it's now hundreds of thousands of people there. And it's just amazing to scroll through every morning and see somebody from Nicaragua, waking up and taking a photo from their window and
Yeah.
explaining in the caption what they see, where they are, what's the time of the day, what country, city they're in. And then it's like, in a way, because everybody's locked in their houses right now, nobody's actually traveling. But you are traveling through those photos because you can see
Yeah.
Nicaragua, and then 5 seconds later, you can see a photo from Canada, and then you can see a photo, 2 minutes later from, I don't know, Antarctica or somebody from Romania, like me in Transylvania in the woods. And it's just bringing passion and it's bringing life in a situation and in a time where, look at us, we're inside. Everybody's inside. And it doesn't look like we're going to move outside for many months to come, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a great opportunity to do some online storytelling, I think, for sure, and build those connections. Not
Yes,
all, like there's some advice that some people say, build as many friends online as you can during the pandemic, then you'll have more friends when it's over, instead of, sitting and waiting in real life to, I mean,
it's very
and it's
true.
also learning about the world. Like so many people are just missing that discovery process. So it's great to hear that there's some Facebook groups like that. And also when you submit your photos on Scopio, you can also add the story to the
I
upload.
did yesterday. I uploaded yesterday a few of the photos.
Yeah. So the stories will be actually under your picture and people can read them there. But if you
Nice.
want separate stories, just upload different times because the story gets linked to all that submission of it.
Okay, makes sense.
So,
Sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, thank you so much for coming on today. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
you. And I'm sure a lot of people will love to hear like all this advice and
Always happy to
hope to
share.
meet you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.